What's going on, guys? What's going on, Ty Squad? What's going on, everybody? So, how good was Chris Paul in his prime? Chris Paul in his prime was a very good point guard. Is still a very good point guard. He's a Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He is a good point guard when you look at it. When you look at it, Chris Paul in his prime, he played with Lob City, with Blake Griffin, um, DeAndre Jordan, Jamal Crawford. Like, I think those Clipper teams, when Chris Paul was a part of those Clipper teams, could have won an NBA Finals. Could have won an NBA Finals. And he played with James Harden with the Rockets. And the Rockets were close. The Rockets were definitely close with Chris Paul. And I definitely think when you look at it, you can say Chris Paul has had an amazing career so far. Like, he just joined Jason Kidd, um, John Stockton, John Stockton for the most assists record. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this as well. I do think Chris Paul, at the end of his career, like, he played 20 seasons, he made the NBA Finals with the Phoenix Suns and Devin Booker. I think that loss to the Bucks that year, Phoenix was very close to winning that NBA Finals. And I definitely think when you look at what Chris Paul has done, the 20 years that he has been in the NBA, he has been making history, been on NBA teams. He changed the OKC Thunder that we see today and see the assess of that OKC Thunder team that we see now. Chris Paul and brought that team to become what that team is with Shea, Chet, and everybody on that Thunder team. So I think with all the teams that Chris Paul played on was attender teams and playoff teams. And we can't give the knock that we can't give credit to we have to give credit to Chris Paul. We have to give credit to Chris Paul because he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, you have to put him in that conversation with Steph, with Steph, with Magic, with Iverson, with Penny Hardaway. You have to put that in a discussion because you really don't know at this point how many records Chris Paul will break, because records are supposed to be broken, and I definitely think the way that Chris Paul has played and the way he has shown the 20 years that he has been in the league. Like, him and LeBron James are the only two in their 20 year careers, because Chris Paul is in his 20 year, LeBron is in his 22nd year. But when you look at it, you can say that Chris Paul is a amazing point guard. Is knows how to get his teammates involved. We saw him play off the basketball. And with Chris Paul here, Chris Paul could, in my opinion, have that number one assist record, break that number one assist record, even though he's in that conversation with Jason Kidd, John Stockton. Like, like when you join a conversation or a assist record or breaking that record, and you know that you're going to win that record, you're going to win that type of record. Like he just added his name with the assist record of great players to ever play the game. And we have seen that from Chris Paul. We have seen Chris Paul get to the NBA Finals with the Phoenix Suns. We have seen Chris Paul get to the playoffs with the Clippers, get the playoffs to with the with the with the with the OKC Thunder. We have seen Chris Paul get to the NBA Finals. I mean, get to the NBA Finals with the Phoenix Suns and Devin Booker. We have seen Chris Paul then on the Hornets. We've seen Chris Paul do it all. And Chris Paul being in that name with those big conversation names like Jason Kidd, John Stockton, like he could have, once his career is done, he could have that that he could break that number one. He could be number one in assists of all time. That assists all time, and he is breaking records. He has joined that assist club with 1,200 assists. 1,200 assists for Chris Paul. And you're telling me that that Chris Paul been to a finals. Chris Paul been to the playoffs his whole career. Like Chris Paul, whatever team Chris Paul is on, you know you're going to make the playoffs. You know you're going to make the playoffs. Because those teams that Chris Paul was a part of, like the Clippers, like the Warriors, like the Hornets, the the Rockets, the Rockets, the Rockets, the Spurs now, the San Antonio Spurs now, the the Thunder, like those teams that he was a part of, are just going to be a part of those certain teams that he played for over his 20 years in the NBA, and him breaking a 12 and in his prime. If Chris Paul was still in his prime, if Chris Paul was still in his prime, I'm just going to say this. If Chris Paul was still in his prime, we would say that Chris Paul is the best point guard ever because he is in that conversation now with with Magic, with Jason Kidd now, with John Stockton. Like he's in that conversation. If Chris Paul was still in his prime, if Chris Paul was still in his prime, and I'm just going to bring this up. I know Chris Paul a long time ago was in a trade rumor to go to the Lakers. If Chris Paul went to the Lakers and played with the great Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul would have a ring right now. And I think Chris Paul is still chasing that ring. If he won, he can still win a championship. But in his prime, it would be amazing to see. It would be amazing to see. His prime is different than it is now because Chris Paul, from his prime to now, It's still the same Chris Paul, and he's playing off the basketball. This is amazing to see. But guys, so if you're new and never give up your dreams, and I hope all of you guys are safe out there, and stay blessed, everybody, and peace.